Welcome to the Super Facts Show on the Super Facts Network, featuring St. Laz, who also hosts the popular web series Gem Pop and music journalist Mark Walter Ward. They have discussions about hip-hop, culture, society, philosophy, and everything else. Now available on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts.
Get that light out there.
What up, world? It's your boy Mark Walter Ward, Super Facts Show, Facts Network. Today we got an incredible guest, Baby Paul, Grammy Award-winning producer, managing an artist, Zell, who recently signed a 7-figure deal with 300 Entertainment, has his own record label, DOE. How many places are y'all getting distributed at? 2, 3?
Actually, like 2. I would say 2 now. Yeah. And it's funny because, and I thank you for the introduction.
I wasn't done, but we'll get back to it.
Yeah. You know what? I'll let you complete that, and then I'm gonna finish the question. Go ahead.
He got a project with Monie Love coming up. He got to start recording for people such as Cool G Rap, Eric B, and Rakim. And the thing that blew me away, you know, I'm interacting with Paul, and you know everything's all love, and he's sending me this music of his artists he's dealing with, and it's great. And then I'm like, hey, you got bio? Because you know I don't like leaving money on the table when I do interviews.
Right.
One time I could have had the best Pimp C story ever, and I ain't asked the right question. So
right.
I try to be like real. And so I read your bio, and this man was a member of the Beatminerz, who I always preferred over the Hitmen.
Wow.
Organized noise, like I always like Organized Noise, Hitmen, and Beats by the Pound. Beatminerz. I'm sorry. And
yeah. Now Beats by the Pound was dope though down south, man.
Yeah, Beats by the Pound too. Yeah. KLC, definitely shout out KLC. But
right.
We're talking about one of the most legendary collectives. I mean, I don't know if we have East Coast rap in the 90s if we don't have Duck Down Records. I still think that Smith & Wesson's first album, Recognized, is easily the most overlooked hip-hop classic.
I agree. And it's funny because looking back for that time, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually did have a gold record, but I just don't know how Nervous Records reported their sales past a certain point. You know what I'm saying? I would definitely believe.
Shining ain't gold?
Yeah, I refuse to believe. Yeah, it's never been.
No fucking way.
It's never been certified gold. Neither has Black Moon Enter the Stage, to my knowledge. But we know better.
Bro,
you know what I'm
saying? In 4 straight years, I went to Job Corps, prison, the military, and college.
Right.
And there was 10,000 copies of that fucking CD or tape. This is all like around 96 to 2000.
Right.
Each of those institutions I went to.
Right.
There's no way it wasn't gold. Shit was all over the radio. I don't know if y'all see. Are you from New York?
Yeah, absolutely. Born and raised.
Okay, so y'all had a different box than we did. Y'all had the Ralph McDaniels historical box. We had this box.
Yeah.
There was like each video had a 900 number, right?
Right.
And if you called it, I guess your phone bill got hit for like $3.99 or something. So
I remember that. It wasn't the company based in Miami.
I have no idea. I was in the DC area.
Okay, now do you remember the Mike Geronimo record that kept playing over and over and over because they kept calling that video in? Do you remember that?
Well, I mean, that probably wasn't the case in DC. We was more like, like Bone and shit. I knew Mike Geronimo though. I remember that was the first time I heard might have been the first time I heard Ja Rule, DMX, and Jay-Z, to be honest with you.
And it's funny, Mike is my guy. Shout out to Mike Geronimo, Flushing Queens, stand up. I actually heard from him recently because he just recently put out some new music. I'm gonna try to raise it to link you with him if you want to, kick it with him about what he's doing these days. Definitely.
Oh man, I would love to. Like, I know that was one of the first things Irv Gotti worked on. I mean, that was underrated. I mean,
got a lot of
there was a period I felt that. I mean, I'm not necessarily gonna say white record executives because maybe they weren't white, but they were out of touch record executives, and I felt like they didn't know how to market somebody unless they were super gangster, or they was like they know. To me, I feel like they didn't know what to do with Tribe Called Quest. They should have been bigger, but they damn sure knew what to do with Vibrant Thing.
Right. But here's the interesting thing. By the time Tip went solo and put that Vibrant Thing out, he wasn't even on Jive Records, the label that Tribe Called Quest was on. He was on Arista Records when he did his solo project. So I'm glad you pointed that out and you recognized that. Because if you pay attention to the history of Jive Records, they had Tribe Called Quest, they had Too Short, they had E40, they had
they had UGK,
Boogie Down Productions, KRS-One, but it took Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, Backstreet Boys, and those acts to make them a multi-million-dollar company on the level that they became, you know, in the pop market afterwards.
And then they stopped giving a fuck about the rappers. I interviewed Bun maybe 10 years ago now. Jesus.
Matter of fact, I think UGK was on Jive Records too.
Yeah, UGK was on Jive Records. So I asked him because you know, Pimp was like real close to Too Short. He called him his OG and everything.
Right.
So I asked Bun B if he was there the first time that they met Too Short, and he was like, "Man, the first thing this motherfucker said to us was, y'all signed with Jive? Y'all done fucked the fuck up." And I was like, and I was like, "Is that the worst thing you heard?" He was like, "Nah." KRS-One was like, "Man, get the fuck out of here right now. Rip that contract up, get sued, whatever."
Wow.
Yeah, Jive has a real, like, as illustrious as a reputation is, anytime you start reading these biographies and memoirs, Jive sounds like a horrible place for a rapper. And Banks, Drew Down. I mean, they had all these West Coast cats that was going platinum with no promotion, and I barely heard of Drew Down or Richie Rich until
true.
Until
it's like, it's so true. A lot of the artists from that time, like late 80s into the 90s, that put out quote unquote urban music, they didn't really get their just due compared to the 2000s when Jive was putting their money behind more pop artists. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. Yeah, it is. It definitely is what it is, man. But salute to all those legendary artists, man.
Hey, but in one way though, I mean, maybe Jive was progressive. Maybe they were like, you know what? We'll make some money on some borderline pedophilia with this Britney Spears chick, and and we'll stop profiting off Black Death for a while, because that's one of the few corporations that put down the Black Death paycheck.
I'm gonna get deeper with you. You ready for this?
Yes, sir.
Jive Records, the owner of Jive Records, Barry Weiss. Nervous Records, since we were on the subject of Smith & Wesson and Black Moon on their first couple of releases and not really becoming certified gold. Michael Weiss, those guys are related. You can Google this. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, how many people are supposed
from two different companies that have probably had a very similar operational structure in terms of how they put out black music back then. So,
and then they probably gave their kids mad jobs in the record industry.
Right.
I think one of them executive produced Chet Hanks' project.
Oh wow, that's
not really. I'm just fucking around. All that shit. Hey, so
yeah, man.
You got this deep ass history, but you know, just in case people don't make it to the end of the episode, can you before we get into your history, can you tell us about some of the moves you're making right now? Because
sure, I mean, absolutely.
Like you sent me so much stuff. I definitely like Jay Slag.
Thank you, appreciate it. Yeah, it's just a bunch of new music that I've quietly been getting behind. You know, Dre Banks, of course. You know, I've been working with Dre for many years. Like I sent you the AZ record. You know what I'm saying, that they collaborated on, and I had them do a record with a Mill Formula Rockefeller Records some time ago too. That was pretty dope. But like, as far as like bodies of work over the last couple of years, I did a group project called XrossRoads. It's myself and an artist from Detroit that's affiliated with Eminem named Supa Emcee. He was a battle rapper out of the Detroit rap scene, so he knows everybody.
And he was who was he in 8 Mile?
He was featured among the battle rappers in one of the scenes with Eminem. You can find it on YouTube, but they put it as bonus footage that was on the DVD that wasn't in the actual film. The theatrical version he wasn't in the theatrical version. He was in the bonus footage. Because, you know, when they shot the film, he had different battle rap scenes with a couple of different rappers from Detroit. You know what I'm saying? And even though he didn't make the cut for the theatrical version, they had him on the DVD version when it came out. And of course, it hit the internet. So if you look up Supa Emcee versus Eminem, you'll see the actual footage. You know what I'm saying? But I was introduced to him around 2017 by a business manager named John Joubert out of Detroit, and they wanted me to collaborate with him on a couple of records. But once we started doing music, we just built a really good creative relationship to the point where I was like, let's just do a body of work. And for me, I came up with the name XrossRoads because, as you said, I've been in the music industry for many years, worked with a lot of artists, produced records for a lot of labels, and I was just in a phase of my career where I wanted to focus more on being an executive producer. I wanted to be more of an overseer. You know what I'm saying? I want to be able to be a catalyst for new artists in the market. That's kind of where I was at with it.
But it's like a throwback too, though, the XrossRoads, because like it's back to the days where it'd be a rap group where you know, Premier make the beats, Guru rap.
Right. That was the whole approach. I wanted to tackle that genre perspective within hip hop, where you had the P-Rock and CL Smooths, the Gang Stars, you know, Showbiz and AG, like the producer and the rapper energy. You know what I mean? Because that's kind of like somewhat non-existent in the mainstream world, and I'm okay with that. I feel like, for me, it's about the art and the integrity of the music more than anything. So I feel like the body of work that we put out is very, very, very good. And it's what we call carrying on tradition within hip hop culture, you know, for today's audience, because there is an audience for that, as we know. You see how successful Griselda is, you know what I'm saying? So It's just about building that foundation, building that following, you know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what I've been doing with XrossRoads. So we put out like 2 EPs. One is called X Amount. It was a combination of freestyles off of instrumentals of records I produced.
I just listened to that, bro. He was freestyling?
Check it out. There's about 3 or 4 on that's freestyles off of beats I produced for people like Pharoah Monch, Nas, Bootcamp, and then there was 3 or 4 other original records on that, right?
Damn,
then the next EP was called The Road Less Travel, and it was just a testament to understanding where we at in the marketplace, and that being independent, putting out real pure hip hop music is kind of like the road less travel. So that was the statement we were making, and we wanted to just put out some really good, you know, like beats with good subject matter. So we did like an EP of like songs that we felt really, you know, felt close to our heart in terms of the conversation. Some of it was just about lyrical exercise and being really good at rapping and doing beats. Other records is about, you know, relationships. And another record, one of my favorites called Need More, is just about how in today's modern day society and the digital age, man, we always need more. We always want to be, you know, clout chasing and want to have stats and fame and money. And, you know, it's like you forget to count your blessings and appreciate what you have despite what you're looking for in the future. You know what I mean? So that song Need More is one of my favorites. And then we had another song featuring Guilty Simpson, which is another artist out of Detroit. You know what I'm saying? It's called Rise. It was just an inspirational record.
Bro, I know Guilty Simpson, Black Milk and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So shout out to Guilty Simpson. He's on a song called Rise on the second EP we did. We were supposed to shoot a video for that, but then COVID hit. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of like caused all that quarantine to shut down the plans at the time, and we never got back to it. So, you know, but I'm proud of that EP. I'm proud of all the work I did with XrossRoads. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, we gonna get to Zell, but I gotta ask you a question, since you've been, you know, you've seen pretty much all phases of hip hop before. Like,
yes,
I don't know, were you around when people was plugging the turntables into the electric lights and all that shit?
Well, I wasn't around that far back. I started my inspiration to be a part of hip hop came from like the mid to late 80s, listening to Run DMC, LL Cool J, Houdini, Fat Boys, Master Flash, Melly Mel. You know what I'm saying? But
how about Schoolie D? Did you rock with Schoolie D?
Oh yeah, legend, Philly legend, absolutely. Them first couple singles, PSK is like a timeless hip hop record out of Philly. You know what I'm saying? That's,
you know, even Ice-T admitted it was the first gangster rap record.
Exactly, and it was the soundtrack to that movie,
King of New York.
Yep, King of New York. You know, with Wesley Snipes and Christopher Walken. Exactly.
Lawrence Fishburne, David Caruso. I done seen that shit like 35 times.
That's a classic movie, bro. I love those scenes in the old vintage hotel where they just sniffing coke and going crazy, chicks everywhere. You know what I'm saying? And they playing the Schoolie D in the background.
Hey, let me ask you this though: you think Christopher Walken could dance?
That's a good question. Put it this way: what he did in that scene was entertaining. Like, imagine a loop clip of that right now on social media. People will be crying.
That's a TikTok waiting to happen. If they already make it. But the reason I brought up history is, well, I wanted to ask you this. You know, we were just talking about how groups used to can provide, and it wasn't just one MC and a producer. Sometimes it'd be 2, 3 MCs and a producer.
Right.
And I'm just
like
curious.
3 Times Dope, another group out of Philly. Yep.
Yeah, 3 Times Dope. Actually, got a song with Pimp C people don't know about. That's highly valuable if you can get that record. But I got back there if I wanted to look for it. I spent way too much for it and ain't never listened to it. But I listen to it on Spotify once a month.
Right.
But what I want to ask you is, so when it starts to transition where producers start working with anybody, they start being guns for hire. Like I noticed like when DJs went from turntables to using like Serato and shit, there's there's always the get off my lawn old man shit. Well,
right.
Was there a period where people thought it was I don't know, bamified or whack or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I come from the Beatminerz, and their turntablists to this day. Salute to my alma mater, you know what I'm saying? But I do understand the digital age. I do understand digital controllers.
Well, I'm asking specifically though about when the producer started working with people outside of a group dynamic. Was that frowned upon?
I think, well, you know what I think happens is like, if you're not part of a group, the only other dynamic that works is just like what the Beatminerz did. We do a body of work for a new artist and we break an artist, like how we broke Black Moon, how we broke Smith and Wesson, how Timbaland broke Missy, you know what I'm saying? How Swizz broke DMX, you know what I'm saying? And the lots, you know what I mean? And it's like, if you don't brand yourself as being part of an artist's history within the culture, then if you're not part of a group, that's when you get boxed out. You got to kind of get in where you fit in, you know what I mean? I've been blessed to say that I've been a part of both, but at different points in my career, as you can see. Like starting out with the Beatminerz, I was a very intricate. I'm picking the wrong words. Influential in building that career brand for Duck Down Records. You know what I'm saying? And then later in my career, I just said, let me do the group thing. You know what I mean? It was just like a calling that I never answered that I was able to do. Even if it was more independent, even if it was more under the radar, we do have a fan base. We were able to tour Europe and do all kinds of things. So I'm really proud of that.
I imagine you must have learned a lot of business dealing with Duck Down.
Oh yeah, that was my school. To be honest, like learning how being a quote unquote in-house producer to moving forward and being more of an independent entity, building my name just as Baby Paul, producing records for different artists in the industry, and knowing that, you know, without management, I got to be hands-on with every facet of the business, the publishing, the credits, advances, you know, licensing deals, just the whole recording process and dealing with invoices and, you know, pretty much micromanaging every facet of my business. You know what I'm saying? And the best part of it was that even after those years of working with Duck Down and the Beatminerz, I educated myself on the business of music through A&R consulting for independent labels and, you know, consulting other artists to help push their agenda. I helped shop artists to get record deals, all kinds of different things, you know what I mean? And that was like my training ground when I wasn't producing records. And
now you know, reached a point where you're involved with artist Zell. You know, y'all check him out on Instagram. It's is it Lil XXel?
Lil XXel, LIL. Yep. Yeah. He's a up and coming young artist, very talented. He's from
Jersey. Deal with 300.
Yeah, he's from Jersey, but you know, he made his name in the music industry as a California resident. My business partner, Antonio Velaz of Zellular's Music Group, that's his father. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Now, mind you, my business partner and I have had a working relationship even before Lil XXel, you know, surfaced in the music. We were doing some other projects, and then it was one of those days where we were on the phone. He's like, yo, my son is doing music. Check this out. And he sends like a link or something he had up on YouTube. Like he did a freestyle over a Jeremiah record that started getting numbers on the internet. You know what I'm saying? And then he put out another record in collaboration with a young DJ out of Jersey, called himself DJ Diddy. You know what I'm saying? Not to be confused with Puff Daddy Diddy. Yeah. And the song was called Monopoly, and it started picking up numbers again. So I stepped in and was like, let me help him with getting his marketing, you know, in terms of, aside from getting the streaming numbers on YouTube, let me get him on some blogs. Let me get a couple of media people to start recognizing who he is as an artist. Then he did another record, but he changed up the creative direction of the music, and he did a song over an electronic dance track, which ended up becoming the hit record, Let Me Know, LMK. When that record took off virally, we're talking about TikTok, Spotify, it started charging on Billboard independently. The labels came to us. We didn't have to shop a thing. You know what I'm saying?
That's always a good place to be.
Yeah, so my business partner and I, we just filtered through like 5 or 6 offers from major companies, and we just narrowed it down to 300 for one reason and one reason in particular. We like their roster. We like the fact that they're major independent, meaning they have major distribution. They can handle the marketing, but they still give you a little bit of control over your music and owning your publishing and your masters and things like that. Because we all know how 360 deals can rob you blind if you let them.
Word.
So
you know, another thing about them though is it seems to me like the artists get developed more over there than a lot of other places.
Correct.
But like you see them improving.
Correct. And they grow with time from independent, like underground to mainstream, but still have an independent space in the context of all that. So that's what I like about what he's doing over there. He's got a lot of music coming out. He has a record with Coil Ray. I don't know if the song is out yet. I gotta check. And a video coming real soon. So, but yeah, you know, Lil XXel's, you know, he's definitely one to watch as far as the young generation. You know what I'm saying?
So to take it back though, when you were working with Kool G Rap, Eric B, Rakim, and Karis One, what were you engineering, recording?
Yeah, actually, I was an intern at a recording studio, Long Island City Power Play Studios, and I want to shout out Kool G Rap's other DJ, Dr. Butcher. You know what I'm saying? There was Kool G Rap and Polo, then there was Dr. Butcher. Dr. Butcher was the other DJ that was affiliated from his G Rap's neighborhood in Queens, Corona, and he would do some of the show sets. He would do a lot of the scratches on the records they were recording. And he was a good friend of mine from the neighborhood in Queens, and he invited me to the studio while they were recording the Wanted Dead or Alive album, one of my favorite Kool G Rap albums of all time. You know what I'm saying? That's the album that had Streets of New York, Talk Like Sex, you know, a lot of really dope fucking hip hop songs.
Hey, so, you know who loves that album? Like on some super unexpected shit?
Mm-hmm.
Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is always talking about Kool G Rap. Know all the lyrics to that album. Says he works out to it.
He is to me, the most underrated New York lyricist. You know what I'm saying? Second to him that I feel is underrated, of course, is AZ. You know what I'm saying? Like, for the bodies of work and the skill set that they've offered the culture, I feel like they don't get enough roses. You know
I thought when AZ signed to Motown that was going to be the start of something huge. Somebody dropped the ball there because those Motown albums are fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, I think what happened, I want to give shout to Kedar Massenberg, who was over at Motown at the time when they first merged with Universal. So Universal was consuming all of that Motown catalog for licensing purposes, which is why they did it. So anybody that was signed at the time, the level of attention was but so much. They gave you a budget, but they didn't really have the staff to work the records on a certain scale. So that was like,
bro, there wasn't be no videos for them shits or maybe they were, but they weren't coming on.
There was one video, the I'm Back video.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that.
The song produced by Buck Wild, and my record on that album, The Essence featuring Nas, was like the opener of that video. It's playing in the beginning, then it goes into I'm Back.
That song is such a monumental part of my life. The Essence. When I found out you produced that,
thank you, man. Thank you. You gotta tell me why. What about that record connected with you so much?
Well, I mean, I love Nas and AZ, but what it really is that I basically had none but black friends. I ain't go to school with another white person, so I went to a historically black college.
Right.
You know, I've had many black friends who wanted me to refer to them as the N-word and referred to me as such. Right. So one of my closest friends in life thought that The Essence was so funny. When I forgot which one of them said to the other, but he was like, N-word, you James Bond. I ain't never used N-word once. Yeah. So dude thought it was. So anytime I so-called dressed up or whatever, he would find it hilarious to refer to me as N-word, you James Bond.
James Bond, right. And then I think the next slide is, and you laid low. You know my style, babe, bro, make dope, manicure, facial. Yeah, that record is classic. I'm gonna give you a funny story. Two funny stories. One is I recorded that in Sugar Hill Studios in New Jersey, the legendary Sugar Hill gang. Yes. And that was the last record that was recorded and mastered out of that studio because long afterwards it burned down in a fire. You can Google that.
Damn, did they lose a bunch of music?
June 2000. The album came out June 2002, and that was like one of the last records recorded in Sugar Hill Studios. Yep.
Did they lose a bunch of music?
That I'm not sure. I don't know if they ever kept the masters there, to be honest. But I do know when I got wind about the studio, I was like, thank God we finished the record and got it mixed and got it out.
Hell yeah. That would have been a hell of a loss. Do you think that's the best record they ever had, Trading Bars?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that, and I like the song they did the flyest on Stillmatic album, which I was blessed to say I worked on. It's funny because my song on Stillmatic comes right before that song in the track listing.
On the bio, what song was it that was yours?
I produced on Stillmatic. I produced Destroy and Rebuild, track number 9.
Okay, yeah,
yeah, where he's talking about Cormega and Prodigy and all of them, and then the Flyers, which is the AZ collabo, comes on afterwards on that album. And it's funny because AZ and I hadn't linked yet when that album came out. We linked up after that as far as working together. And the other funny story I want to tell you is that before the song was even finished and mixed, it got in the hands of DJ Clue, you know, the exclusive guy, right. And it was exclusively broken on the radio on Hot 97 in New York before the record was even done.
Damn, what was that reaction like?
I was excited, you know what I'm saying? I know Clue for years.
I mean, I'm talking about the people must have been calling up there like a motherfucker.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So that's what led to the energy of that album doing so well. You know, so funny? It's certified gold since it's come out, but I don't even have my gold record for that album yet.
Damn.
You know,
you got hit up like
over the years it's changed. When you certify gold now, you got to contact the RIAA to request and order your plaque. Back in the days, you go gold, they ship that stuff out. They do the research on everyone that's involved on the album and they ship it out to the label.
Man, you know? and then them things used to be like they went from gold to gold plated and not even gold at all.
Right. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's funny because that's probably one of the few albums I've worked on I'm really proud of that I have yet to get my plaque for. You know what I'm saying? But
damn, I hope you get
it was a crazy time, man. And it was right around Super Bowl weekend when Clue did that. So it was just a really dope energy. Because think about it. Stillmatic came out December 2001. I did that record, The Essence. It dropped at the top of the year around Super Bowl weekend. Then the album didn't come out till June 2002. So think of that little time frame when the song was buzzing and from when it got leaked to when the actual album came out. And that's probably why it was so well received once the album came out, because I got my Grammy nomination from that song.
Man, that was a good summer.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, very good summer. I'm working on having another good summer this year, man. Thanks to those people like yourself that's supporting all the music.
Shit, I got faith, bro. What was it like producing a song that had Kanye West on it? Did you interact with him?
Man, shout out to Consequence. That's another Queens brethren of mine, man. I did a song called Turn Yourself In, and it was kind of around the time where Kanye was campaigning for his first album. Like, he was signed to Rockefeller, he was buzzing, and he was still doing like mixtapes before his first album came out, before Through the Wire came out. So this is around 2004. So I did the record with Consequence, and the funny story is with Consequence, I was shopping him to get signed at a couple places. I shopped him at Raucous Records. I shopped him up at Rockefeller and Def Jam. And the A&R at Rockefeller at the time, G. Roberson, who went on to become a manager for people like Kanye, Nicki Minaj, and so forth, he was like, yo, you should get some beats from Kanye. After I had the meeting up there with Consequence. So that's how Consequence ended up linking up with Kanye. You know what I'm saying? And then initially, I had that record with him. So he's like, he gave the record to Kanye to jump on the hook. I think they did it right out of like a 8-track recorder when they recorded the vocals out of Kanye's house at the time when he was living in Jersey with his mom. May she rest in peace. You know what I'm saying? And then it was released independently once on. Have you ever heard of ABB Records? It's an independent label out of California. ABB Records. Yeah, you can Google it. It was an independent label in the Bay Area that was putting out hip hop. They put out the 12-inch, and then Consequence put out Take Them to the Cleaners, which was like a street album CD, and he put it on that too. You know what I'm saying?
Who else was dropping on this record coming?
It was a lot of West Coast artists, Bay Area artists, independent hip hop. I couldn't tell you like off the top of my head, but if you Google ABB Records, like Apple Boy, you'll see a whole roster of like independent releases from the mid 2000s. I don't know if they're still around. It might be, but it's like an independent label out of the West Coast that was just putting out dope hip hop.
Yeah, them labels be coming and going, don't they, bro?
Yeah. But you know, the independent labels is how certain records would survive if they don't go beyond. And this is somewhat before the digital age is what it is now, if you think about it. So people were still putting out CDs. So it was 12-inch CDs. So that was like just a dope 12-inch. First, they had a white label for the DJs, then they put it up in all the record stores like Fat Beats and all those independent spots where you can buy vinyl. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So what led to the dissolution of the Beatminerz? Or I don't know if they dissolved, but it said you were part of it from 1995 to
Yeah,
2000.
absolutely. I probably was a co-founding member with Mr. Wall. Shout out to Mr. Wall. And of course, Evil D and Mr. Wall are brothers, for those who don't know. So, they'll always be, in bed with each other, pause. So
Right.
We built a foundation of doing a lot of records in the mid 90s, from like 94, 95 into like 2000, up to when we did the Raucous album, Brace for Impact. I was involved with the first Black Moon album, but I wasn't credited as a producer. I just was giving out ideas and samples and all the sessions. So, I got a shout out on the credits of the album, but I wasn't like credited as a producer for like my involvement with the first Black Moon album. But it took Steele from Smith & Wesson acknowledging my work to be like, yo, I wanna work with you on the Smith & Wesson album. So me and Walt were doing demos out of the home studio in Bushwick, Brooklyn, and then one of the songs that I demoed, which turned out to be recognized, one of your records you like, that was a demo that led to them doing their album with Nervous Records back then. So on the success of that song, I ended up doing like 2 other records on that album, which is what started my career. You know what I'm saying?
Did you work on the original Gun Clappers album?
Yes, I did. I did.
How did Storm get involved with that? For those who don't know, Storm from the Outlaws, the girl you hear on the All Eyes on Me double album.
Right. That's a good question because I never met her, but at that time, a lot of the guys out of the group, they were like tapped into the market. Like a lot of other independent artists rocking with them, collaborating with them. Cats out of Jersey. There
was Outlaw Cats on that album too, and then you say New Jersey, so I mean that could be the connection. But I remember I was in college in West Virginia. And like, bro, down there in 1997, your rap music selections was limited. So I was amazed to see a original Gun Clappers album in Charleston, West Virginia.
Right.
But then when I take it back and look at it, I'm like, Storm. I know that ain't Storm. Because, bro, I've interviewed like 4 of the Outlaws, and none of them have seen Storm since like 1996.
Wow, that's crazy. And I want to salute the late Fatal Hussein because I got to work with him on his first solo album.
Oh, I got that.
First solo album on Relativity Records. I did like I think 2 records on there, and and the funny thing is right around the time I was doing those boot camp albums that you just mentioned, I was producing music for the Artifacts, who are out of Jersey. You know what I'm saying? And the manager of Artifacts was also managing Fatal Hussein at the time. So I'm just doing studio sessions with the Artifacts, and he's like, yo, I got another artist I'm working with. I want you to produce some music for him. And he just walked him in the door, like, and set up another studio session. And that's how I got on the Fatal Hussein album.
Man, that's another album that they totally dropped the ball on. Because I'm not going to say it's a 5-mic classic, but it was a strong 4-mic.
Yeah,
And I forgot, he had one East Coast feature on there. Who was it?
I'm not sure. My song was featuring Mac Moore, which was an artist out of the West Coast. But
I definitely know Mac Moore.
Yeah. So
I'm from DC. We ain't have no regional favorites. We just like good music.
Right. So it's interesting because like I have to look back at that album. I know it was on Relativity Records. I just can't remember the whole track listing and all the features off the top of my head right now.
I still got that, John. I listen to it maybe every 2 years or so. I feel the Outlaws are a little bit underrated.
Absolutely.
But specifically Hussein, man, his bars was, man.
He was retarded.
He had a job with Mike Geronimo, didn't he?
Yeah, I believe so. And he had that standout verse on Hail Mary, you know what I'm saying, with Tupac, you know what I'm saying? And it's funny because one of the last times I got to spend time with him, I happened to be in California and we ran into each other at Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles and we just kicked it, you know what I'm saying? And this is after we worked together. And then, sometime after that, that's when I found out he had passed away in a car accident. So it was crazy to me, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, so rest in peace to Fatal Hussein. Yeah.
Most definitely. So then you had a stint where you were A&R Koch?
Yep, I sure was. This is around the time I was producing music for AZ when he went independent after he was on Motown. So I was working with AZ on some of his music, and then in the process of that, building a relationship with the label staff, which goes back to what I mentioned earlier about learning the ropes behind the scenes, the business, and how important that is. So I was wearing different hats, still producing music, but I was trying to take on other roles within the music industry for the sake of, not just for the sake of making money, but for the sake of understanding structure and business, on a better level.
Hey, you're being a little
musician.
self-deprecating, brothers, because I can, you know, this is only our second time interacting verbally, and I think I got a little bit of a sense of you as a person. I bet you some of that was also that those things needed to be done, and there wasn't anyone else to do them.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I can say shout out to Bob Perry, who owned Landspeed, who was an independent label owner that was behind a lot of hip hop. And
Cormega, the great 50 Cent album. I know all about
exactly.
Landspeed.
50 Cent is the future album. You know what I'm talking about. I ain't even got to say no more. So between Bob Perry and Alan Grunblatt, I was that silent voice behind the scenes that was like an ear to the street for them, telling them. And this is outside of the business that Koch was doing with Dipset, okay? Because the Dipset was already in the building too. So I was like consulting Alan and them on like what to look out for. I was the one who recommended when Blue Da Vinci was pushing his music when he came home to do a business with Blue Da Vinci, a BMF. Shout out to Bizarre D12 when he was doing his solo stuff. I walked that in over there. He did an album project that came out. I don't know how well it did in terms of marketing, but I was behind him going over the Koch. You know what I'm saying?
Handicap. You saw the handicap circus.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
With the outstanding Devin the Dude feature. You know, I just had Bizarre on the show maybe 2 weeks ago when we were talking about that.
Right. Let me just cut this not the interview. Somebody's calling me. 1 second.
It's all good. So while I'm waiting for him to come back, man.
I'm back.
Okay, well, I was about to start talking about how good your discography was, but so when you was at Koch, did you have any overlap with Dipset?
No, actually, shout out to Jim Jones, man. I learned a lot from him. Like, he didn't even realize it, like, because he used to be strong in the building. He was the voice for Dipset even more than Cam when it came to just business up over there at Koch. And of course, his solo albums were very well received over there. You know, that's what built the career that Jimmy has now as an artist, is the music he was releasing and the albums he did on Koch. And I watched him, you know, just micromanaging every aspect of the business behind the scenes in terms of marketing, radio, the PR people.
Taking the CDs to the mom and pops, all that shit.
But I'm even talking about just the admin, being in the building, communicating with people to fight for what he wanted done. You know what I'm saying? Whatever schedule was on par with, you know, his videos, his servicing his records to radio, all of that stuff. You know, I watched him, you know, like just being in the building doing my business with the staff, watch him do what he needed to do. Sometimes watch him bark on people if he had to. And that really inspired me. I was like, yo, and to me, I feel like Jimmy doesn't get the credit he deserves as a label executive. Like, I think he could have done so much more in this industry. I don't know if it went to his head when he started making a lot of money, because he also had a situation at Sony after that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, I can't speak for that man's life and career, but I will give him the roses and say I watched and learned some of the moves he was making over there at Koch.
I mean, I like continual progress, and he's continually progress. You know, a lot of people get his age. Like I don't want to hate on nobody, because like I try to keep it positive. But some of my favorite artists who still release music into their 40s, you know, it's aggressively mediocre at best.
Right.
And he's getting better. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, he's got some new music out. I like that song he got out with French. That's fire.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to get a copy of that project. It was a record store day release. There's only 500. Only one of them made their way to Florida. I was lucky. I was in a jump where them motherfuckers ain't give a fuck about no rap music, so that shit was just sitting there.
And bro, that Capo album he did with Heatmakers, fire.
I think I like Wasted Talent better. And like, not
Wasted Talent's dope too. Wasted Talent, I'm not gonna front. Wasted Talent, I like both those albums. I got them both in my Apple Music playlist. So yeah, definitely shout out to Jim Jones, man.
Hey, that made me want to ask you this. So, and we're gonna come back to this real quick. But you said you was on Stillmatic. I don't want to offend you, but I always thought Street's Disciple was better, and it doesn't get.
I don't take offense to it, because like, that's a good argument. I'm gonna tell you why. For me, I don't think Nas has mastered doing a double album yet. Biggie is the closest to it. You know what I'm saying? As far as East Coast artists, because arguably Jay's double album wasn't as good either. You know what I'm saying? Blueprint, was it 3, 2?
Yeah.
Blueprint. Was it Blueprint 2?
Yeah, but then they made the version. It was like the best songs on the one album.
Right, they had to narrow it down because they know they fucked up. Exactly. So for me, I feel like Stillmatic was the closest answer to Illmatic, but it still didn't, to me, and I'm taking myself out of the equation regardless of collaborating on that album. I still feel it missed the mark, because towards the tail end of the album, there were filler songs that didn't really fit into that body of work that could have been removed. You know what I'm saying? So
Word.
I think after track maybe 11 or 12, that I was good. You know what I'm saying?
I could dig
Stillmatic. So I definitely respect that opinion. You know what I'm saying? But for me, I just like the fact that I was a part of history because that was the album that, you know, brought
him back.
more eyes on Nas as artistry and his career.
It brought him back, bro.
Partially because of the Jay-Z beef, but then the other thing was, you know, he really
Nostradamus. That was the thing. Yeah. Boy, Nas lost a lot of respect. I mean, he got the respect back, but Nostradamus, I still feel if I meet him, he might owe me $15.
I think between Nostradamus and what was the album after that?
I don't know. It's not Stillmatic?
No, there was 2 albums after I Am. Nostradamus and another album. I can't remember right now.
Yeah, I can't off the top. I remember what
it might have been I Am because there was
I Am was dope though.
It was written I Am, then Nostradamus, and I forgot, but there's I think one more album before Stillmatic. Then he came out with Godson.
You know the other thing that killed it though, right, bro? You might not know this, but he had a guest verse on a Master P album, right? And there's no way anybody can go look this up. I don't know what it's called, but it's on Master P. Only God Can Judge Me. And I swear to God, Master P's verse was better than Nas.
Wow, seriously?
I mean, in my opinion, my mouth ain't no prayer book.
That's crazy.
But let me take it back to the Koch real quick. What was the attitude in the building when 50 made those comments about it being a graveyard, which, you know, historically he was proven incorrect?
I mean, it was interesting because, you know, it kind of made the media, especially that whole drama with him and Cam, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
But for me, behind the scenes, the staff was just kind of like, look, we got everybody that is relevant in music that don't have a home over here. So we're doing something right, you know? And it's so funny because a couple years later, they changed their motto in terms of doing deals with a lot of artists that were once A-listers. If you notice, it stopped happening. They started shifting gears to doing more distribution deals and doing more, you know, like R&B acts and stuff like that. Like Vivian Green, who's a legendary female singer, and a few other artists. Faith did a deal over there, you know what I'm saying? So they shifted gears completely. There's less hip hop coming out of, gosh, I think one of the last people they had to do a deal with was Joe Budden, if you remember.
Yeah.
He was over there. That's when the company out of California bought them and they switched to E1 Music.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, why do you think record companies, like one thing I never understood, like the majors, why do they sign like 80 people and try to get them like popping to platinum level, as opposed to like Koch? Like I felt like Koch business model, if you get a bunch of people who's guaranteed to sell 100 to 5,000 records with minimal investment,
right,
routinely, why not have like 40 of them motherfuckers instead of having 65 people on the shelf?
That's 10 a good question.
10 that ain't working and 5 that's making money. But I mean, the record company motherfuckers is greedy in general. But I think some of that greed where they be bankrupting people is because they got to pay back all their bad investments.
Right. I agree. And I feel like their business model, just so you know, that from my experience, was they would do deals based on your last retail SoundScan sales, and they would put $2 per unit towards the marketing budget based on what they project to sell. That was their model.
But they was in the mixtape era. How they even gonna figure that out? Like they had J.R. Ryder. How you gonna do his SoundScan numbers when they probably sold like all writers blocks together? I bet went gold in fucking Harlem.
You're absolutely right. But that was their model. But I think after a while, when they put out a couple of releases that didn't meet those sales projections, they had to change that model. You know what I'm saying?
Word. All right, so you know I've held you up for a minute, so we're gonna get out. We're gonna get off. Pause.
You good. You good.
Get out on this one. So you got a project with Monie Love coming out.
Absolutely. Shout out to Monie Love, female legend. We worked together years ago, and we did a record around the year 2000 that was released overseas through Universal Records Europe. It was a song called Slice of the Pie. They did like 3 different versions. They had my version. Then they had like a dance version with a DJ out of the UK or whatever.
Or like that old school remix shit, like the Madonna remix. It'd be the same song, just with a different beat. Yeah.
Right. And it actually went gold in Europe. So, you know, we've always been good friends. And she's went on to do like, you know, television, a bunch of other things. And, you know, she's a mom and she does radio. She's a radio personality. She's done it in New York. She's done it in the Midwest. She's now in Atlanta doing radio. And she was just like, you know, I want to do some new music. Like she approached me about it like a year ago. So we had an original concept album called Golden Jubilee, where she was going to celebrate her birthday within that summer, because her birthday's coming up in July, and put out a body of work. But then COVID hit. So we had to put everything on hold for a little while in the past year. And she actually, you know, just got a real great opportunity in media that I don't want to disclose. I don't want to be the one to give it away. I'll let her give it away when the time comes. So in collaboration with that, when that takes place, we want to have some music out. So I'm a co-executive producer of the project. It's got production for me. I think Kwame, legendary hip hop producer out of Detroit, Apollo Brown. If you know who Apollo Brown is.
Oh yeah.
Really dope producer. Yeah. So, you know, and I'm working on trying to figure out this Common feature. I heard he was shooting a movie, so I'm waiting on that. And we got Sky Zoo on the album.
Shout out Sky Zoo, another underrated lyricist.
Yeah. So we got some treats, and of course, shout out to AZ. Do or Die 2 is done. I know he was just working on the business of the label partnership that he's gonna.
Did that book come out? Didn't he have a book?
Yep, I'm in the book. If you have that book, it's called Jewels, Gems, and Treasures. Came out maybe 2019. I think it came out. You know, and
I'm gonna one of the chapters. But I ain't found it on Amazon or eBay or nothing. You gotta go
through
Music or something.
AZ's a hustler. You got to go directly to him. He has a website called Quiet Money Direct.
Well, I know where I'm fitting to go. Yeah, I'm a voracious reader, bro. As far as I know, I got every rap book.
Yeah, he got his merch, his book, everything like directly linked to him. Like go to the source type thing. Smart guy.
Yeah,
but because you know, considering his fan base, that the direct to consumer type of connection, you know, you can make that money, man. You know. But yeah, it's called Jewels, Gems, and Treasures. It basically gives a little bit of his career background, his personal history in hip hop, some of his relationship stories, and then people he's worked with, like myself. Well, I appreciate him mentioning me in the book, though. I'm definitely in there. And like this album was pretty dope. I'm proud of it. You know, I did like 3 records on there. One's featuring Rick Ross. The other one I think is featuring Fabulous. I haven't heard the final version. And then he has production from Pete Rock, Buck Wild, Bink, KG, Rockwalla. Yeah, it's a dope project, and I believe Dave East is on a record. Maybe T-Pain. There's a couple other pendant features, but I don't want to give the whole thing away. But yeah, just look out for Do or Die 2. I believe it's going to be his best work yet.
That's super saying something. All right,
yeah,
everybody make sure y'all go follow Baby Paul on Instagram at
Baby Paul BPZ. Yep.
BPZY and Baby Paul BABYPAUL. Bro, I just want to salute you for having such a legendary career to this
Thank
point.
you, man.
Involved in so many powerful movements, and I look forward to seeing the success as you go forward.
I appreciate it. Thank you for supporting Dre Banks with the Trina record. It's out right now. It's doing really well. Over 450,000 views on YouTube. Streaming numbers is growing up. His monthly listeners is growing. He's charting about like in the top 150 in urban rhythmic radio in over 10 markets. And it's thanks to people like yourself that's supporting him, man. Appreciate you.
No doubt, man. Hey, stay on real quick when I get off. But this has been a Super Facts show. Baby Paul, legendary Beatminerz, legendary executive, just an all-around legend. Mark Waldo Award, Super Facts Network.
Yes. Peace.
The Super Facts Network, home of Jump Pop, STE, and the Super Facts Show. Now available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts from. Come check out St. Laz, G from the Shop, and Mark Waldo Award.